Alright, in this tutorial we're going to talk about the shape tools. Now the shape tool is right next to the selection tool, and within the shape tool there are a number of shapes you can use, like the rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, line tool, and custom shape tool. In order to even create a shape, all you have to do is hold down on your mouse key and drag out the shape. Now within this shape there is a stroke weight of 23 and it's black. So if I wanted to change the stroke weight to a lower value, I can use the directional key and move it all the way down and click enter. Or I can just enter a value like 5 points and click enter and it will shrink. I can also change the color of the stroke weight with the swatches. Maybe I want to use a red, or I could possibly use a color picker and use whatever color I want and click OK. I can also fill the colors with the swatches and the color picker. Let me just use another red. And I can use whatever shape tool I want, just like I did with the rectangle tool. Like right now I'm only using the rounded rectangle tool, and it gives us the same type of color stroke and the same fill color. If I want to change it, I can at any will do it like that. Now there is a way to create a proportional shape. If you hold down the shift key, you can create a proportional circle instead of just creating a circle that's pretty wobbly like this one. But the thing is, the difference when you hold down shift key is that you add another shape into the current shape. So I already add, when I hold it down the shift key, this added another circle with the rounded rectangle tool. So if I click off the layer, you're going to see that the circle and the rounded rectangle have disappeared because they're within the same layer. Now, in order to prevent that, what you can do is double click on the artboard, and then the ellipse box is going to turn up. And when you do that, then you can add a center proportional shape wherever you're choosing. Right now the height is 84, so I can choose the width at 84 and click OK. And when I do that, it goes into another layer and it's still a proportional shape. And if I want to change, the dimensions again, I can click on the width or the height to change the dimensions. The Polygon tool is a little bit different, and the difference between all the other shapes and the Polygon tool is that you can choose the actual size. You also can choose the size if you double click on it like this, and the Polygon box option box turns up, and there's a proportional shape of 84 and 84. And what I can do is change the size and also click on if I want the object to have smooth corners or make it in a star shape. Let's say if I wanted to make it, let's first do it in a star shape and click OK. And right now you see a star shape of it. Now let's try to do it again, but click off the star. And with that, it's going to create a pentagon. So there's more options to use if you want to use a polygon tool. You can also change the size. Let's just say I want to have 7 sides instead of 5. Click enter, and then I will stretch one out. As you see here, the polygon is a little bit different compared to the pentagon that I previously made. Now the line tool is pretty much like a rectangle tool, but it's narrow. Usually when people think of line tools, they think that the stroke is made up of the line tool, but in reality, the reason why it's a line is because the height is significantly low compared to the width. The height is about 2 points, and if I wanted to increase the height by 240 to make it proportional, I can, but it got a little bit wonky. Let me try to fix it. See if I can fix it if I can. I don't think I can. It just turned into a rhombus right now. Let me click OK. In any case, I was just trying to prove to you that the line is basically just a narrow rectangle, and I can just change the colors and stuff like that. Now, there is another thing that you should know about shape tools. Let me see if I can delete all of these and create a new slate. There's another thing you need to know about the shape tools, and that's the path panel. Right now we were operating on the shape panel, But if I want to choose the path panel and then place a image to illustrate my point, let me use a animal picture right here. Just waiting for it to load and enter. So it clicks OK, and then I will make another layer. And this one I'm going to use a rectangle tool. So I'm going to use a rectangle tool, hold and drag, and release it. Now 3 options pop up. There's selection, mask, and shape. Now when I click selection and I click OK for the make selection option box, OK. Now anything that is within this selection area can be manipulated, but anything that's outside the selection area cannot be manipulated at all. One way that I can manipulate it is if I wanted to choose a paintbrush and paint inside the area. And as you see here, I'm painting inside the area, but anything where I'm actually trying to paint outside is not being manipulated. And the only way I can manipulate outside is if I hit Shift Control I, and now I'll be able to paint outside, but I will never be able to paint inside, as you see here. So let me just undo everything right now. Okay, and go back to the shape panel. Now hit mask. Everything that was outside is going to be masked, and everything that was inside the shape is going to be shown. And that's a great thing to use if you want to ever do that. Let me deselect. And also, the third option is shape, which basically turns it back into a shape. And I can change the path panel to the shape panel and then actually use a fill color. Let's use in the swatches of yellow. So that's cool. And one of the third options in the path panel is the pixels panel. And with the pixels panel, first thing you got to do is create a new layer. And let's say I want to add another rectangle. I'll just click and drag and make a rectangle. But when I make the rectangle, it's going to use the foreground color that's in this panel to make the rectangle. And I want to be able to manipulate it with the shape at all. The thing about the pixel panel is that you rasterize the shape, and the difference between rasterization is that you have the ability to use filters on this rasterized shape as opposed to an actual rectangle. Another thing about the actual rectangle is that it's a vector, so I'll be able to manipulate it with my selection tools. For example, let's see here, I'm going to click on this rectangle and try to click on the points, and one of the points is highlighted. So if I click on one of the points that are highlighted, I can manipulate like this. I can change the shape of how I want it because it's a vector now. But once you rasterize it or pixelate it, I can't do it with the selection tool because it's not a vector anymore. So that's one of the ways or the differences between a rasterized shape and just a regular rectangle. Regular rectangles that are made by the rectangle tools are already vectors. So the last thing I'm going to actually show you is the custom shape tool. And the custom shape tool has the ability to add any type of shape that's within your libraries. In my libraries, there are a lot of different libraries that you can use. Right now I have the animals, I have film, and I have music. But let's say I wanted to add artistic textures. I can add artistic textures if I wanted to click append. And when I click append, I have now added some new textures into the library or into the collection. So now I can click on one of them and then drag it out. And it's actually in pixel mode. So let me actually put it in shape mode and do it again. Now there's a new layer and it's in shape and it's created as a vector. So now I can actually manipulate it by changing the color. Maybe it will show pink. I don't think it's actually going to show the pink because it's such an abstract picture. Let me use an animal. And I have like a cat type of photo or type of a shape. So I have the shape of a cat and the stroke weight is by 20. So let's actually take it off. So now we can actually see the pink here. And there's a lot of other type of options that you use with the shape tool. The only thing I only showed the basic. In the next tutorial, I'll probably show you how to use the custom shape tool a little bit more. But until then, that's about it for this tutorial.